Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insurance Town. I am the Mayor Heath Sharon and the host of this podcast. I am pumped you're here hanging out with me today because I got a great conversation lined up for you with my man. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is sponsored by Smart Choice, the fastest growing agency network, hands down. Just renewed for another year with us. And you guys love them. I love them. They love the industry. They love you, the independent agent. If you have not heard more about them and you want to, go to smartchoiceagents.com. There's over 10,000 of you guys nationwide that have signed up. There's $11 billion in written premium with Smart Choice. Carriers love them. Agents love them. Vendors love them. They're just a great company to work with. Go to smartchoiceagents.com. It looks like my hand was recognized there because I got excited there. So I'm going to lower that down and tell you about Canopy Connect. Canopy Connect is your one-click solution to getting deck pages that you need, getting driver's lists that you needed, getting loss runs that you needed. Anything that you need on the intake process, they want to be a part of that, and they want to help you and streamline that and make that a wonderful process and a wonderful workflow for your clients, for your agency, saving you time, which makes you more money. Go to usecanopy.com/Heath so you can get a demo. You could definitely get a discount. And you can just let them know how much you love it. I promise you're going to. Lastly, my friends over at Old School Marketing, taking a new school approach to an old school way of marketing with direct mail pieces, handwritten direct mail pieces that come out in a different, unique style that not done by anybody else in our space. They keep your phone ringing all month long and not just one day or 1 week at a time. Rusty and his team do a great job. Go to oldeschoolmarketing.com. Now, guys, I've got to hurry up and get out of the way because this conversation, it is a blast and you're going to love it. My man, Caleb, what's going on, brother?
Heath, the mayor. How you doing, man?
Man, I am good. I've been waiting on this one, man. I'm excited. I think I've wanted to have you on in the past. I don't know if we ever just couldn't get it done or whatever. I have no clue, but I'm glad you're here. Your hair looks phenomenal today.
Thanks.
I'm going to have to release video just because of your hair. Mine's out of control, but yours looks great.
Just trying to be like you. Yeah, I feel like we've crossed paths enough at conferences and kind of been admiring each other from afar. Well, I've been admiring you from afar.
No, it's definitely a two-way street there for sure. Especially with that hair. Is there a product you use that's like specific to, or is it just like you wake up that good looking?
Well, that's for another podcast. They're proprietary, and so yeah.
I hear you. No, it's phenomenal. Yeah, I need a haircut bad. Mine's like afro at this point. So
Been on the road a lot, you know.
yeah, it's been a minute. So finally get to do this. So where you at right now? Are you at home? Are you
Yeah, I'm at home.
Where's home?
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio.
Oh yeah, you're in the beautiful, wonderful Ohio.
Yeah, in the shadow of the Nationwide Tower, you know. I feel like
Yeah. Jeez.
some of us in church.
I even hear though there, like in Vanilla, Ohio, that rates are a little crazy right now, even there.
It used to be a little bit of a safe haven, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Not so much,
we're not immune.
Everybody thought it was. I mean, it's Ohio. I mean, always going to be good rates there. But anyway, it's probably a good thing for some people. But anywho, Ohio. I've only been there a couple of times, so I don't know a whole lot about Ohio. So I can't even talk trash or say anything good.
That's enough, you know. A couple times is enough.
I came there for state auto training. I will say that. I went through pace setters. Had a good time. I enjoyed downtown. I guess that was Columbus.
Yeah,
where state auto is. Yeah.
Obviously, I have an affinity for it, but it's not a destination city. You know, it's not going to just you're not going to pick it if you have your chance. But like, there's enough cool
Yeah.
stuff here, and you know, you got enough of the Midwest personalities. It'll keep you. It'll grow on you. But,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Are you a sports guy?
Yeah.
I'm a big sports guy. Cleveland, or is it more Cincinnati guy?
I like to see both do well, right? I'm an Ohio guy. I like to see Ohio do well, but growing up, I spent a ton of time in Indy, and it was in the Peyton Manning era. So like I
Oh yeah.
couldn't root for the Browns over Peyton Manning. It just didn't make sense, you know.
No, not at all. Especially, I think that was the time when they were using the dude that came out of Notre Dame that was supposed to be this big hotshot quarterback that didn't quite do so well. I can't remember his name now.
Brady Quinn. Yeah.
Brady
Yeah.
Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all were really trying to tout him as like your savior, and that guy just fizzled quick.
Well, there's a laundry list
Yeah,
uh,
of a
of,
lot
of
of yeah.
supposed Brown saviors, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm not talking
Yeah.
trash. I see them do well,
No,
and
I get it. I was super pumped because I was for a long time I was a big LeBron James guy, and to see him go back to Cleveland and win, that I cried a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
good
So
story.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
great story. Then he went to LA, and I don't like him anymore. But when he was with them, it was fun. All right, so again, we're not in sports town; we're in insurance town. So let's talk a little bit about you. Tell me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask. I want your take on how do you think Insurance Town is doing? You know, as the mayor.
Good, man. Everything's good, man. The town is going well. We're growing. I just re-upped all my sponsors, so that's a good thing. So we're going to be on for another year at least. So another 60 episodes or whatever it might be, 52 at least. Life is good, man. It's opening up a lot of doors for me to get to sit here and do this with you, and go to Indie Tech and go to PIA of Texas and go to PIA national conferences, do all these fun things. So
That was
I
fun to
love
connect
it.
with Indy Tech. Glad we got a chance to do that.
Yeah, dude, that was fun. And get to see one of our very own jump on stage at a bar randomly and take over for like 30 minutes. That was amazing.
I'm glad I
Dude,
got to
that was
I'm
dude,
glad
that was
peer
crazy.
pressured me into coming, you know?
Yeah, you wouldn't have seen it had you not been there. So just the late night tales of being at a conference. So talk to me, let the audience know who's Caleb Kramer, where you come from. Tell me your past, walk down memory lane.
I'll try to keep it interesting. I'm not that unique. Just run of the mill sales guy that I spun my wheels for. I think this is a common tale. Spun my wheels for a while trying to be interesting until I figured out that the real key is the whole cliche is true for a reason. You got to be more interested than interesting, and then if you can find yourself in a industry where you can amplify that curiosity and just focus it into trying to help a specific group of people and
Yeah.
become really curious about them, then apparently that's a decent recipe to escape at least mediocrity, right? And so
Mhm.
just I'm a bit of an outsider because I come from the more just startup space. So I was
Yeah.
for a good part of my career, I was helping just early stage companies in general. It could be pharmacy tech, it could be just a hardware widget, it could be any company that was trying to scale and go from 0 to 1, and then from all right, we got to 1, go from 1 to 2, and how to do that from a sales perspective. I was helping companies, and so that was cool. But the only way you can be good at this is to actually dive in and actually learn about the end consumer, and to do that in a different space every week. I jumped at the chance to get back into the vertical of insurance. I haven't looked back. So
That's awesome. And you know, most recently people may have known you from where in insurance.
um most recently I was at Indium in the network
Yeah.
space trying to help where I could there, marrying the right carrier mix to the right
Yeah.
distribution. Yeah,
That's awesome. And now, you're with another startup that you're launching, for lack of better words, which
unintended.
yeah, pun intended completely. And I do want to hear more about that. But you brought up a couple of things I wanted. First of all, I think you got to be a little more than a mediocre salesperson to get to where you are and the notoriety that you have. And I think people recognize the skill set that you have in startup land. And I think there's a certain skill set you have to have there. And I think sales is a big part of that, in my opinion. You also brought up the curiosity factor and the niche factor. And I'd love to get into that with you just a minute, because you brought up several different pharmaceutical, your hardware, you brought up insurance, you brought up technology, you've been in, network space. I early on in my career, back in early 2000s, before, and I'm old, but before Google, before Facebook, social media, iPhones, all of that, I figured out really quickly that niches are the only way I was going to grow as a 21-year-old kid without this beautiful gray beard and the gray hair and all of that. I had to differentiate myself, and I took that curiosity route and learning about niches and getting involved. And in the beginning of that, for you, was it an intentional thing to getting into niches and whatnot, or was it something you kind of, just kind of fell into almost? I hate to use that cliche of fell into, but
No. At startups.com, where I was working within a different vertical every week,
yeah,
it would have been Heath's hardware company, and then one week, and then I'd be trying to develop some sort of sales plan and playbook, and sometimes help them get funding, right? For a pharmaceutical company. That I was working with a broad set of companies trying to
yeah,
accomplish the same thing. And I figured out the only way to accomplish it is to go, you can't accomplish it by going wide. You have to get like very detailed in what is your
yeah,
specific offering and who the hell should care about that offering.
yeah.
It it's not all that complicated. You just have to do the deep work. And it was just by broad not working that I figured out you have to go deep. Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, I think that's a good point to make, because I think a lot of insurance agencies that I talk to, and you probably talk to, even over at Indium or wherever you've been in insurance, to say, where do I even start with niches? And I think you're right. The curiosity is a big place to start. And then I think, you're right. You have to go layers deep instead of wide, and casting that wide net doesn't always work. And I was super surprised. And again, not calling anyone out, but I spoke at a conference recently, and I did a show of hands of how many generalists are in the room, generalist agencies, and about 45 to 50% of the room raised their hand. And I was really surprised at that. I shouldn't have been. I really thought 4 years into this pandemic, so to speak, or post-pandemic, whatever you want to call it, we'd see a lot more niches and a lot more of that. But I'm still seeing a lot of generalists. And I just banged my head against the wall thinking, how in the world are these people? And I get, if you're a generalist listening to this podcast, I'm not offending you. I'm just wondering, how are journalists still being able to be successful? It's interesting to me.
Well, I think the market is forcing some agencies to at least pick some spots at what they are uniquely positioned to help clients excel at.
Yeah, I'm looking for a hard take from you here now. Don't be afraid. Nobody's listening. It's just me and you, and maybe Lindsay. Shout out. I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
I do think
On this podcast after Lindsay Wallace, I have to follow Lindsay.
yeah, right. Shout out there to Lindsay Wallace. But no, I do think, and that'll be my hot take. I do think as we move and navigate through whatever the next 3 or 4 years look like, I do think people should look into niches and look into, something a little more layers deep than layers wide. I think you're right on that.
I think we've exacerbated the problem. The industry has exacerbated the problem by willingness and its excitedness to actually use technology to advance the space.
Yeah.
Because what automation does, it amplifies things, right?
100%.
So now I can use drip campaigns to get my general message out to everybody.
Yep.
And reaching more people. The industry is reaching more people, but with similar messages, right? And so it's just creating this white noise in the space. And so it's getting harder and harder to answer that question for the prospect of why the hell should this prospect care about my agency?
Right.
It's getting harder to answer that. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good step for the industry to take, but I think it's kind of a problem of the industry's own doing.
Sure. And when we talk specifically in the insurance space with insurance salesmen, where do you feel like, again, this industry is not a young industry. It's been around a long time. And I've been in it a long time. You've been in it for a little bit. Like, where do you see that salespeople could improve in the, whether they're insurance salespeople, or you just want to call them salespeople, or even the CSRs that are, selling policies as well? Where do you think that improvement could happen? Whether they're a niche, whether they're generalist or not, whatever they're into, where are you seeing the holes there?
With technology, you can cast a wide net, and
Yeah.
so what I've learned is a sales tactic used by many shouldn't be used by any. I talked about like the adoption curve, right?
Yeah.
So there's there's a late majority and then there's laggards, and then I don't think I'm unique in placing the insurance space, and it's for a bunch of different reasons, regulation and just conservatism. Being in that late majority to laggard adoption curve, right? The tail end, right? So you send other other industries up the hill to see who makes it, right? It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but here's the thing: so we're adopting technology, we're adopting automation, and we can now get more efficient with our sales, right? Like we can do more things faster.
Sure.
We can do one-to-many sales. Well, that's already been done, right? That's unique to the industry, but it's not unique to your buyer because nothing happens in a vacuum. And so your buyer is not only engaging with insurance salespeople, they're engaging with tech sales that have done this 5 years ago and
Sure.
other industries. So these tactics are old news to them, right?
Yep.
And we are pretty wild organisms that start pattern recognition. And then so now we realize like it loses its efficacy. Just because this is the first time Heath's done this, it doesn't mean that this is the first time I've engaged with it. So it's a long way of telling agents that like you got to recognize like what is your buyer experience outside of what you're just doing, right? What's white noise to them? How do I zig when they consider me zagging and everybody else is zagging? So just being different and picking your spots, right? And that's where
Yeah.
I think the best way to display the knowledge and expertise that a lot of these agents have accumulated over multi generations often is through actually translating that through a lens of a really good question that makes Heath say like, Caleb understands HVAC, you know,
Yeah.
he knows my space.
100%. And it's funny you say that. I ended up telling the story on stage last week about how I fell into the insurance, the HVAC space, and it was really and truly, cold calling on HVAC. Which again, if you're not cold calling, there's a way to stand. Nobody's cold calling right now because they're all using technology or buying leads or doing whatever. So you might be able to stand out there by cold calling, taking an old school approach. But anyway, I was cold calling early on in my career, but with HVAC, I knew I had to be there early in the morning because they had these early morning meetings and they send their crews out to go and do their thing. So I got there early one morning. I was sitting there chit chatting and trying to get an appointment with the owner of this HVAC company. It was a pretty large one. He was like, "Man, we're about to walk in our meeting, and then I've got to go. I got 4 crews I got to send out to Dairy Queen, and we're working on duct system and all this stuff at Dairy Queen." I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go with y'all." I was like, "What?" And I was a young, stupid 26-year-old or 27-year-old. I was like, "I'm gonna go with y'all. I'd like to see what y'all do and learn a little bit." And he was like, "Shut up." I was like, "No, really, I am. I'm going. I have nothing else to do today. I was hoping to close this deal today by now and go home and play." And he was like, "All right, fine." And so I strapped up and went with him. And I didn't do any of the work because that'd have been an issue for them. But I got to be there and learn. And I had lunch with them and talked with them and shot the shit with them and just got to know them. And like by the end of the day, like they felt like I was one of them. And so I learned the language, I learned the lingo. And then I was able to take that back. Well, then that spread. Other people found out, hey, do you want to go on a job with you? You want to see this? And then I got to learn, some of the safety features they should work on, looked at, risk management from that standpoint. Are they doing this properly or that? It just became a thing. So yeah, I think, by taking that curiosity, by doing that, not only did I land that HVAC account and several others after that for years to come, I also got the Dairy Queen. And I opened up a niche for fast food and, restaurants and whatnot. It was just a really cool moment. But yeah, it propelled my career into that. And I stood out there because I offered to go on the site with them. Again, I don't know if you can do that anymore or you could find a way of doing it, but I found a way to make me stand out.
That they can't take that experience away from you. You can take that
No.
other other accounts, right? And you can compound that. And it's hard to do with it's hard to do for one, and it takes work, but like it does compound, but only compounds if you do it again and you do it again and you learn something else. It's hard to do that with 30 industries, 40. Like
Hmm?
it's just hard to
Yeah.
do, you know?
Yeah. The only thing I would say, and I want to ask you this. So with the evolution of the last couple of years of ChatGPT and how it's blown up, could someone give me the argument of I'm a journalist and I just use ChatGPT to help me and say, hey, walking into a widget store of this widget, what are their insurance needs and where are their biggest risk factors and how can I sound like the perfect pitch person for them for an insurance guy? Could they do that? Man, my voice got high there, Caleb. I guess I got excited.
Got excited. AI is a rising tide,
Uh-huh.
and so that ability is just going to be table stakes, right? And so it's
Yeah.
still Heath having that intimate knowledge about the space and ChatGPT is gonna beat out the guy that just uses ChatGPT. And maybe not might get you the meeting,
Yeah.
but in the
Yeah,
long
you're right. The experience is going to help you to get beyond the. I got you. No, I just thought I'd want to because that's come up before, and I get it. You could use it to at least learn a little bit more, and that was we talked about this earlier, but that was kind of Scott's point a little bit. When I had Scott, from Leo on the show, and he kind of brought up you could use some different techniques and things to make it at least feel like you know what you're talking about. But I think that experience goes further.
and and
Sorry.
and, and no, the means by which you go deep in an industry is changed. Like you
Yeah.
probably don't have to go. You may not have to go on that ride along anymore, right? You might be able
Right.
to ChatGPT to get that, but like if if you dive deep into that for a day on ChatGPT, but then you're like off to the next thing, um, the person that goes the next day and is
Yeah.
in ChatGPT learning about that industry is kind of is gonna be able to talk the talk and walk the walk because
Sure.
you internalized it.
Yeah, and that was the thing that the interesting thing going back to that story a minute ago is I can remember going back and having a much higher quote, but the guy went with me because he was like, "Dude, you rolled up your sleeves, you went out there with us. My guys love you, And not only like I said, I got that account in the Dairy Queen, but then he asked me about his personal home and auto, and then some of his other guys asked me about their personal home and auto, which I didn't like doing personal lines, so I shifted that off to CSR. But still, the point being I've developed the friendships, the relationships, and I know I don't. I'm not Caleb. I'm not good at a lot of things, and you know this about me. But I know how to network. I know how to build relationships, and I know how to make people feel comfortable with me because for some reason God's given me the gift of relatability, and so and I use that to my superpower.
I'm glad you brought that up because I
Oh,
agree.
good.
I think that's what your reputation precedes you. I think that's those are boxes that I think everyone would say you check, right? If not, I don't want to be friends with them, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, we got to be careful because I'm not the first one to bring this up, but with AI, it seems like the fun stuff is like being delegated out, and like there was a meme that why should I? Oh, great, like AI can write a song for me and write a movie and actually do my journal, but like I get to do the dishes. Like, wait, I want that to be the opposite. Like,
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
you why
Yeah.
like do the dirty work? Let the AI do the dirty work. But let Heath be Heath, and like let's not try to like actually disintermediate the letting the human
Yeah.
dazzle. Like let the human dazzle, you know?
No, I completely agree. I think you're right on that. I going back to a little bit of the sales piece of this as we're figuring out. I've heard it called a transitional market, hard market, a lot of explicitive market. And as people are trying to figure this out and what the next, because my hard take on this, or whatever you want to call it, is we're not ever going to get to a soft market again. I think we're here to stay. I think this is the new norm. Now it may soften a little bit, but I don't think we're ever going to go like to a true soft market again. That's just my take on that. But again, that being said, as we settle into this, now I know certain like work comp is soft and some other markets are, but again, all in all, I think we're not going to go back to that. But so as we try to figure that out, you brought up another good point of not just insurance sales. We're a little bit behind other markets on certain things or industries, but whether their clients are not just hearing from them. Like, granted, if I picked a phone and cold called, or I walked in on an HVAC company today, not only they heard from me and 6 other insurance agents this week, but they've also heard from, like you said, their other vendors that are calling on them, or the telephone company, or the Wi-Fi, or the blah. The list goes on. So how do you feel like our insurance guy as a salesperson stacks up? Our 6 insurance guys stack up some of those other industries, and what can we do to be just salesmen, not just insurance salesmen? Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. One of the hardest things is being a new rep in a company, a sales org that sells 15, 20 things, 40 things, 50 things. It's tough, right? You want to sell them all.
Yeah,
And
of
it's
course.
hard to just pick one. And so I don't know. It's tough to compare apples to pineapples with like the telephone company, and insurance agency, but you have to get them to lean in, right? And just pick one thing. And it really is the first hurdle is, oh, Heath gets it. Yeah, like no one's asked that question before. No one's made me think about it before.
Yeah.
He seems to be thoughtful about my space. Yeah, he nailed it. Okay, you can only do that with one thing though, right? So you got to go in on one thing. And I don't even mean not even talking about niches right now. I'm just talking about like pick
Yeah.
your wedge, pick an angle. Like take a guess, pick an angle and
Yeah.
see what resonates, right? Try to be hyper relevant. I say first step in prospecting is trying to be you're solving the relevance problem. You might have to ask yourself 5 different times, well, why would Heath care? And you might be having a conversation with yourself for like 10 minutes. Why would Heath care? Well, of course, about this. Well, why would he care about that? Well, because of this. Would he really care about that? Well, yeah, because of this. And you're talking to yourself to the actual first principle of why should Heath get on the phone with me? Like, and
Yeah.
that needs to be keep doing that until you have a damn good answer for yourself, right? And then you got to translate, because even the biggest fan of the Bible won't know what's in it if you got the Greek translation, right? You have to translate that thing. And so
Yeah.
I have to translate it for Heath. Like I
Yeah.
can't let's instead of talking about work comp and return to work programs, which might go over heads, let's talk about, okay, like you've been talking about on LinkedIn, you're having a hard time finding people, you're losing people left and right. So you have an absenteeism problem. People aren't coming back after the work, they're hurt. Like asking questions around that to make, oh, like that's not
Yeah.
normal. Because here's another thing. We assume that people are having problems and they're aware that they're problems. They're not often. That's their normal, right?
Yeah.
They don't know that it's a problem. They might know it's annoying, but they don't know that there's
Sure.
an alternative, right? So they're not necessarily in market seeking the alternative. They just acknowledge that that part of their job is a little annoying. So you have to like highlight that no, like actually you're it's annoying for a reason, Heath. It doesn't need to be that way. In fact, most businesses like you don't have
That issue.
headaches. Yeah. Oh, really? So there's some controllables in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's dig it. Right? Like translate it for them. I see too many agents like talking in a way that won't necessarily it makes total sense to them, and credit to all the
Yeah.
education that goes into it making sense. But put your layperson hat on for a little bit. Put that business owner hat on for a bit. And
Yeah. I
some
think,
people do this really well, and they're reaping the benefit of it. Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. And I like that answer a lot. And I wrote down a few things here because first I go back to, and I use this in my life in a lot of other areas besides just sales, but like I call it like that 6 degrees of why, digging even deeper. Like when someone comes to me when I'm having set sales goals, like, okay, I want to do $1 million in new revenue or new sales, whatever. Okay, why? Oh, because I want to, whatever. Okay, well, why do you want to? Oh, because I want to buy a new boat. Okay, cool. You want a new boat? Why do you want a new boat? Because I love being on the water. I love this. Okay, well then why? And trying to drill that down at the end of the day, where it's like, at the end of the day, once you get through all that, you want to spend more time with your family and your children. So if you got a boat and you go out on the water, and you could do that, and you have a lake house and the whole nine, boom, now you got your why.
You know why I love that? Because like, and sales leaders aren't doing this enough because then your coaching conversations, if you're doing it right, are about Caleb. You're dude, you're far away from that million. And dude,
Yeah,
I want it for you because I want to see you on that boat with your family. How do we get you need based on your conversion rate, you need to do a bunch more activity to get to your boat, man. How to help me
100%.
your boat. And it's about more than just KPI tracking then, right?
Well, then imagine that sales leader having a conversation with Caleb that wants the boat because he wants to spend time with his kids and his wife and be on the boat and see his wife in a swimsuit every weekend and the whole night. Yeah, imagine this conversation. And you're saying, "Hey, why don't we do this, Caleb? Let's set a goal for third quarter. And if you hit this goal, I'm going to rent you a slip for the next 6 months. For the first 6 months of having a boat, or I'm going to get you, this, or I will pay your first 4 tanks of gas, whatever, something related to that boat." I'll get life jackets for the entire boat for you and make sure you have the boat ready to go, life jackets, something related to that boat. Like, oh, he's buying in on this boat. Or hell, I'll make the first payment on your boat for you, whatever it might be, something related to that. So it's like, okay, he's a kick in high gear. And I know if I can get Caleb hit third quarter goals, he's gonna hit fourth quarter.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go get that boat, man.
Right.
No, I'm ready to run through a wall if I'm that rep, right? Yeah, it can seem like a no-brainer, but it's like it puts you in the
Yeah.
top 1-2% of sales leaders, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that simple that ties back into that why of getting that boat, for example, or if they want to spend time with their kids. Okay, you hit this. I'll give you a week to spend with them. Don't worry about it. Hit that week. You got your goals set and hit and whatever else. Go ahead. Spend another day or two with them, or go to little Johnny's football game early or basketball game or whatever. I don't care whatever it might be, but I just think that if we can tap into that 6 layers, is what I say of why, then we can be able to speak their language better than just, you got to sell because I need my goals hit so that I can pay my note, so I
Yeah.
can pay all these carriers out there, so I can pay this. And no, hit them where they're at. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at.
I agree. And that there's a negative universe where I don't hit my boat goals, I don't get a boat, right? Like there's a negative consequence of not reaching that. If you, for your prospect, for your client, if you identify what their real why is, then like you can reverse engineer. No,
Sure.
if you in the alternate negative universe, like this, if you don't achieve this, it sucks. Like I need to help you achieve,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, sales is hard, so you gotta.
Yeah. So if you're talking to entrepreneurs, and you're doing startup land, no matter where it's at,
Mhm.
but you kind of, their reputation precedes you as far as being a startup guy. Is this some of the conversations you're having with them? Why do you want to sell this widget, or why do you want to open this insurance agency, or why does that kind of conversations you have at that high level?
Yeah, just like selling is hard. Starting a starting a business is hard.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
I try to open the escape hatch for them early and often. Like, no, the door's open, walk through it. Like, just tell me why the world needs this. Tell me, even if the broader world doesn't need this, like, why does your industry need this? Like, why does this need to come to market? Why do people need to use this? Because if that's not there, um, it's an uphill battle, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't remember who I was having the conversation with. It may have been actually my wife talking about it, the insurance industry, of talking to producers or talking to people getting into it. And we try to do your best to talk them out of it. And if they still want to be in it, then they really want to be in it and they're going to be successful. But if you let them know, and so it almost sounds like what you're telling with that escape hatch, or like talking through this, like, why does the world need this? Or why does the world need your agency or another agency or whatever it might be? It sounds like that's what you're saying.
yeah. And it's not. I never want them to take the escape hatch. Just like it,
Yeah.
like through your devil's advocacy, that's not what you're hoping for. But it
Yeah.
gets thinking as to like, oh, I need to go a degree deeper on my why. Like I don't have a good answer for that, and the market is going to demand that I have a good answer for that. So Heath being tough on me, like Caleb seeming completely pessimistic about our product, like that's necessary to do a little deeper work to get more invested in the why in the industry and answer those questions a bit better.
Yeah. I just think I'd love to know if that's kind of, is that, as you're having these conversations, is that kind of where the starting place is the why, or is that something that comes, later on? And once you get beyond that, as you're working, excuse me, with these, these people that are starting up companies or starting up agencies, starting up, anything, widget company or whatever, um, you know, from there, does it go into mission, vision, value statements, things of that nature? Or, is there a formula that you use every time?
There, it shouldn't be too cute. It should begin and end. It should begin with why. Why are
Yeah.
you doing this? And then it usually isn't a good enough answer. Like they usually need to refine.
Yeah.
And the rest is driven by whose life sucks without this service, without this product, without this
Yeah.
widget, without this hardware. Whose life sucks without it?
Yeah.
If someone's life doesn't suck, like there's not going to be enough market. And then by latching on to whose life sucks without it, it could be end user, five folks down the totem pole. There could be four different people in an org if you're lucky that their life sucks without it. Um, they might not know it, right?
Yeah.
Unrecognized, and you have to like really, really highlight it. But whose life sucks without this should be the drum that you bang from marketing, from everything. It's just that
Yeah.
I don't even talk about competitors. Like that's if your number one
Yeah.
competitor
No.
isn't the absence of your product, then like you're doing it wrong. So
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this then, and we can edit this out if I need to. Why why do you stay in startup land? Some people would say they would rather bang their head against the wall over and over and over to be in startup land. And then there's some people, I know a lot of people that are addicted to that and they love that startup world. So let me ask you is why do you stay in startup? Why do you love startup world?
um asymmetric impact.
Okay. I'm from Arkansas. I don't even know what those two words mean. So
Neither
I'm,
do I. I just chat GPT'd it.
that was awesome.
So it's I can spend and this is trade-offs for everything, right? I don't want to make it seem like just because some things make me itchy, like in a Fortune 500, doesn't mean that they're not valid for other folks to do, right? So,
Sure.
but it comes with a lot of headaches and stress. But I can condense, I can realize the impact on a company and an industry and a space in a week that might take me 5 months to make that same impact at another company. Just due to layers and protocols and the inability to be fast for valid reasons, right?
Yeah.
I can ask stupid questions.
Yeah.
I can take a learning curve from 3 years to 3 weeks, right? Because I have proximity to the problem, proximity to the people that can actually answer it for me. Yeah, that's I was in banking for a while, right? I was in banking for 3 years, and then I got a taste of it, and I got just addicted to the talk about a juxtaposition of complete structure to lack of structure. And turns out I'm an unstructured individual. Yeah.
Is that something you would say like it's a passion of yours to help these startup companies or to be a part of that startup company? Or is that more of just an itch you're scratching for yourself? Or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, there's a little bit of, or maybe a lot of what I thought was instant gratification, but
Yeah.
I suppose there's some of that, but it's just a new problem every 5 minutes, right? And
Yeah.
so like I guess I'm more of a puzzle addict than an instant gratification addict because a lot of times you don't always get the instant gratification of something being completed, right? That's what you don't get. You don't you start eight different things, but you don't really get to see something completely come to fruition.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the puzzle component that appeals to me.
Sure.
Um, it's an environment that has more questions than answers all the time. And so
Yeah.
if you come with an answer to something, like, okay, like that's massive impact. Versus where I really break out in the sweat is where I go to a company and they're like, well, like, no, we have like all of our playbooks done. We've got for that scenario, we've already got that done. And it's an admirable end goal. I just want to be there before they get to that, right? I want to help them get that.
Right.
So,
That makes sense. My favorite thing that my buddy Sid says, if you haven't ever met her, I know you have, but I'm talking to the audience here. If you haven't met her, you should someday. But my favorite thing that she says at Vertifor, is I want to be the rock in the shoe every single day. And it shows testament to who Vertifor is, but that's not a Vertifor podcast. I'm just saying it does
well,
show a testament.
enough of my friends work at Vertipore, and I do applaud that, Sid's allowed to be a rock in the shoe. Like it's
Yeah.
not, yeah, it's
Yeah. I just think it's really cool that she openly, because the first time I heard her say it when I was working, I was like, oh, I can't believe she said that out loud. But it's like something she's said for the last 3 years. So they know that. But I was like, man, that's really cool that this large company, that is wants that and brings that on. Okay. So making this transition to a new company for you, another startup, correct? And it's called Launch, right?
Mhm.
Can we say that? I mean, you're there now. It's
yeah,
official.
yeah, I'm
So
settled
it's
in.
all good there. Say what?
I'm settled in. Yeah.
Yeah, you're settled in now. So, you know, tell me a little bit about, if you can, maybe what attracted you to Launch. What was something that was that a passion project, something you were excited about getting involved in? So they were speaking your language, or because I know you were happy where you were. It's like you're, I hate indie, indie agents, and I hate working with India. No, I think this was something that, I'd love to hear like some of that.
Yeah, on the contrary, right? Like
Yeah.
I was I was a pig in shit with, I was working with people I respect. Uh
Yes.
one of my best friends, if not best friend. So like, yeah, it's more like, how did I what dynamite made me, leave that situation, right? And so I just wanted to clarify this was not running away from any situation, right? It's more like something was compelling enough to pull me to it.
100%. That's what I want to dig into a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't really feel like answering it, so
Okay,
just
that's
I'm
fine.
kidding, just kidding.
I'm fine with that. I have an edit button. It's cool. But no, I'd love to hear, because I think
Yeah,
a lot of people were maybe shocked a little bit when they heard you were going somewhere else.
yeah. I mean, a bit happy. I understand. Part of me doesn't understand because I'm like that in Caleb world, like 18 months is like, an eternity.
Eternity.
But like I have to acknowledge that, I'm not normal and,
Yeah.
other folks it might be a shock. So this may be redundant because I put this in like my announcement and it's true. I think there's been something missing in the space. Tools have been adopted like we talked about and a
Yeah.
lot. Um, Space is catching up and the space is like willing to change the ways. I think the industry gets a bad rap in general, like that they're dug in and no, I've met a lot of agents and a lot of just drink through a fire hose as far as all the capabilities to change and but willing to change, right? Willing to adapt. But most of it has been on the operational excellence side, right? How do we optimize operations? How do we fix all the inefficiencies in all the different layers of the value chain, right? Like and kind of further down the funnel, there's enough problems to fix further down the funnel that
Yeah.
that the actual like tools to help with salesmanship really weren't there.
Yeah.
Sure, like I mean, you have drip campaigns that you can send out in agency Zoom and things like that. But true, like how do I help Heath feel like and appear like more of an expert in that meeting? And then the next meeting, how do I give him a nice way to follow up other than can I quote you? And like all these things that rightly so agents are getting preached at, like sell the AOR and sell agency value. And there hasn't really been a tool to help with the how. Like I think agents hear this and there are a lot of good orgs preaching this. Like Premier Strategy Box preaches this and does a good job. Insight. performance group does is like a bunch of groups that are like saying the right things, but then there hasn't been that companion piece. It's like how because
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
outside, they get in the meeting, and then they go back to the okay, like all that's forgotten because I haven't practiced it. So then like the easiest salespeople go to the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance kind of is okay. He's like, well, let me get me all your docs. Let me try to quote you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then they sound like every other insurance agent.
Yeah, so what I categorize it as is sales enablement tools, right? You're not in, like that's been missing. And it's a massive industry outside of insurance. If you can throw a rock at tools that are actually built to be tip of the spear, helping Heath pitch better, learn from his pitch, uh, present information better, handle objections better, right? Scorecard, all of that is a massive industry outside of insurance, and I understand why it hasn't made itself to way to insurance yet because it, as much as insurance thinks it's too unique for its own good in some regards, it's unique enough that tools need to be tweaked. It can't just you can't just take tools out from
Yeah.
outside the space and just turn them loose in the space, right? It wouldn't translate like we talked about. So the fact that they were solving that problem and committed to turning producers and letting them hone their craft and be advisors and give them a how when everyone is telling them what to do, rightly so, give them a how. And I thought that was
Yeah.
commendable and there was room to run there. So
So this is beyond a like a CRM tool that just sends out automated emails or automated text messages. This is beyond all that.
yeah, we want to it was important to me and the team to not try to be everything to everybody. We want to be very, very precise and sit on top of and hopefully one day interact with those the CRM, the AMS, the tools that, you know, are stalwarts of the tech stack. We don't want it to disrupt.
Right.
I also think that you want to be space doesn't have enough specificity. I think in a rush to integrate, and we do need to integrate and collaborate. But some of these tools are like, well, now I'm going to add something without taking something away. And this tool that 3 years ago was like its superpower was it's like really easy to use and really intuitive, has now grown into something like I don't even know where to find that thing that used to be my favorite thing. Where is it at? Right? Like
Yeah.
we want to have good product discipline where we're like, if we add functionality, we're really considering what should we take away, you know? And so because we want to strategically not step on toes, you know?
Sure. Yeah. It sounds like something I really want to see, because it sounds conceptually incredible. And so, is launched as of now? Could someone purchase something or
It is. I'm doing live
subscribe
demo.
to whatever it is? This is a subscription. That's hard to say. Subscription. Is it a subscription thing? Is it a something they buy? Is it a widget? Is it a
Yeah,
what is it?
right now it's just a month-to-month subscription. So,
Okay. It
yeah,
is subscription. God, I can't say that word.
you're in my head now about it. Yeah.
Subscription. Yeah, yeah, got it. So it is a subscription service, and so is there anything you could tell the audience they wanted to reach out?
Here's a play that if we're just like using launch for prospecting, um,
Yeah,
trying to close the loop on some of the things we talked about. So we talked about relevance, right? So if we're trying to appeal to this HVAC contractor that I've been chasing down, ghosting me, like tried calling. First step is if it's not already in there, a lot of times we help put it in there, but we come up with an assessment that really resonates and with HVAC, like asking the right questions to make Heath say, "Oh, okay, well, I didn't think about it that way. I'll give Caleb a shot because that's interesting." And what's interesting is that we have the built-in translation that we give you a score. We as we're building the assessments with you, we're saying, okay, this is an acceptable score or answer. This is a terrible answer. This is concerning. And then it lets them visualize like how poorly they answered, how well they answered. And there's some objectivity to it, right? Because like it's part of this, like any good salesperson has to be willing to walk away from the environment where there's no pain.
Yeah.
So if somebody scores green, it's like you also have to remain objective and say, okay, well, actually, he like looks like you're in the green here. You're doing good. Like I'm happy for you, right? And so going off on a tangent here, but so we've developed an assessment here. We've crafted a message that says, hey Heath, like I've developed this assessment that will tell us that your work comp program, if it's in if you've got things in place that are good, bad, ugly, we'll know. Just I'll stop I'll stop bugging you. Just take this assessment. We'll see, if you're on a good footing or not. You take it, I get a score, I send that back to you with an advisor summary. All right, Heath, like you scored pretty poorly on these things. Here are the concerning areas. Here's why. Here's how
Mm.
it'll impact if you don't fix it. And then
Love this.
next steps is I'm going to help you do this. You're going to do this. So I have homework, you have homework. And so our next steps are we're getting pretty deep without even talking about quoting, without anything. Like I'm putting in the work to help you manage risk a little bit, right? At least start now, giving them a taste of what it's like,
Yeah.
a risk management program, right? Um, so yeah, that's a play that you can use
No,
loss prospecting. Yeah.
I love that the assessment, the next steps, that advisor piece, because it's adding value beyond price. It's adding value beyond, buy from me because I'm, got a great personality, or, great hair, or because I'm funny, which is 90% of my sales was based on personality, and so it worked for me for a long time, but or price or whatever it might be. But this is giving a value beyond that of saying, you know,
Mhm.
let me show you this. Now, there is that piece of it that they could take all this information to the incumbent and say, hey, this is an assessment that I took with Caleb and he showed me da da da. Can you fix it? But there's the same thing with if you give them a quote and they go back to the incumbent and say, hey, Caleb gave me 10 grand less than you did. Match it or I'm going to Caleb. But I think this comes from a value standpoint, because I think once you go through all of this, they're going to build rapport with you. They're going to see your value. They're going to see what you bring to the table. And then they're starting to question in the back of their mind, almost like a wedge technique of, well, why didn't Billy do this for me? Or why didn't Bob or Tommy or Sally or whoever their incumbent agent is? Why didn't my incumbent do this? Why?
Yeah. The follow-up, like let's just say, did they did score poorly. They've got no return to work program. Okay,
Yeah.
well, next step, let's break the mold. If there's like no follow-up for 6 months, or it's just like, hey, checking in. Let's do something in between, right?
Yeah.
Automated, just checking in. Then it seems like everyone and their brother has Zywave. So like you go into your content cloud. Now you send them a return to work program, and
Yeah.
now you're providing value, but it's from a foundation of we know what's wrong, right? Behavior,
Right.
behavioral.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
love that.
um, and then same thing can be applied midterm, right? If you're like it's remarket city, trying to avoid that for some folks, like a touch point other than
100%.
while you're waiting for the renewal quote to come back, uh, send them something there. Just so, like, all right, Heath's interested in my business, and it's not just
Yeah.
quote related, right?
Well, I think I also love it because if you think about the holistic view of an account, the underwriters and the carriers are going to love this.
Based on the market, I think agents are going to be forced to, at least in the commercial side of things, right? Where you can, um, the old Glengarry Glen Ross always be closing. I think the new is going to be always be underwriting, right? From the get go,
Yeah.
from the get go.
But if you could walk into a carrier, to underwriter, to a whoever, marketing rep, or whoever you're dealing with, this is a big account I'm working on. This is the account I'm working on. Check out these assessments that I got, filled out, got this done. Here's where we see the holes. Here's where we see we can help. And then you could go in and say, I'm going to build this, this, and this. So right now they're paying X amount. I'm asking you to take these credits, put these debits and whatever it might be because of this. And you have a holistic view of what the account, I think it's great.
Well, that's the car just drove by. Sorry,
You're
that's
fine.
not
Little
audio.
squirrel moment. Yeah.
Uh,
I love it.
good collaboration because we're pretty bullish that, and we've had some agents that have taken that summary, taken those answers, and given it to the underwriter, just like, hey, like
Yeah.
go beyond the chords a little bit. Like, here's
Yeah.
maybe 20% of it is new news, but like it every little bit helps building the narrative. Um, so
I
we're
mean,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
I think also, and again, here I am playing use cases all through my mind right now, but I'm also thinking about some of those that maybe have had a struggle, for example, with maybe it's telematics. And they're like, I've been trying to talk this agency or this agency, sorry, back up. I've been trying to talk this client into doing telematics to help me, help them, help me, help them. And they just won't do it. I don't want the man involved in this, or I don't want this, whatever. Well, if I can show, hey, you have a hole here. You've got these drivers that are really giving you a tough time, or you didn't score very high on your driving or on your auto policies, whatever it might be. I've been trying to talk to you about telematics. Let's look into that, and this might help you. Not only can you get a discount from telematics, but you can also get a better view of what's going on. You can find out who's the one that's mashing the brakes too hard, who's the one that's running red lights, who's the one that's not driving slow, right? Who needs to not be driving and be in a passenger seat for a while. I mean, like, I think that's going to be a good use case, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, my
I
voice
think
got high.
you're right. I think you're right. I'm excited for all the uh all the use cases we're not thinking of, right? I am also bullish on producers' creativity out there, right? And
Yeah.
so just giving them a tool
Yeah.
that they can accurately translate insurance products into the business and behavioral implications that can have on the businesses. A good line of questioning, right?
Yeah. And I think that's going to also build muscle memory for some of these agents to know, like, I've been asking you dumbest questions forever. Let me build, this the right way. Let me ask the right questions, and they're going to get in the right habits.
Better yet, I I see Heath killing it. Like, let me see Heath's assessments on uh this particular business category. Like, it's a way to also for junior producers clone the top producers, right? Stuff that's usually just locked in brains. How do we unlock that?
Dude, I'm about to shut down, and I don't want to. I just want to stare into those eyes, ears. I'm just kidding. No, I really have enjoyed our conversation. And there's so much more I could have gotten into, but I may just have to have you come back, and give us an update on what's going on with launch. I may just need to have you and Lindsay come on. We just got to shoot the shit for 30 minutes and just hang out, or an hour. That'd be fun. I had a
Well,
blast with her on here too. So
you could sign me up for that tomorrow.
okay, sounds good. I may need, Carrie to babysit the three of us if we get on a call together, but maybe she can run the podcast and the three of us can hang out. But no, I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you are for our industry. Like I said, you mentioned earlier, we've kind of admired from afar, and I've watched your career, seen what you've done, and I just think everywhere you go, it just, elevates wherever you go, and then you leave them in a better place. And so I think that's really cool. I don't know. I just think you do things the right way. I think we need to know, and we need more Caleb's in the world. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining me on the show.
Had fun. I'm glad we finally did this. Thanks, man.
Yes, me too. Me too. So,
Good. See you, buddy.